Okay, now let me begin. But before that, there's the situation that I would like you to understand. Now, well, especially Nagoya especially seems to be in an economical rut. But from the news I see, the financial market is fairly stable, and that's nothing new. It's just happening the way I told the Muraokas and my son that it would. In fact, we're heading into a storm. Up until now, we were in the prelude stages. And right now, unless you have been living your life exactly the way you should have been, you will very likely be swallowed up in the storm. I often watch NHK programs with my son, and they're often about cutting off outsourced workers, and especially about the working poor. More than what should be done socially, though, what I'm always telling my son is that there are people like the working poor who are having a very hard life. No matter how hard they work, they cannot become rich. Of course, we need to change all of society, but what I'm always telling my child is, you saw a lot of people on TV who were struggling today. The people being interviewed, they were all divorced, weren't they? That's the problem. They were all divorced. What I'm always telling my son is that as long as the husband and wife have a good relationship and the parents and children have a good relationship too, no matter what kind of a hardship life brings you, you can get over it. Sure, there are many obstacles in life. There are financial problems, all kinds of problems, but we can get over them, and later, when we look back, we will see that our ties have become that much stronger. It's always to the advantage. But people aren't taking good care of family ties or the relationship between husband and wife. The general consensus is that men should just bring home the money. When this happens, the husband and wife are simply on a financial contract. The common goal for the husband and wife is to pay off the loans. They are connected through their mortgage or perhaps their children. They are not connected as husband and wife. Couples like this have been swallowed up in the waves of economy. They end up not being able to pay off their loans. They face foreclosure. The bank takes their home. Then what happens? The wife says, "Let's put an end to this," and takes the children back to where she came from. The man is left alone with no home. He becomes homeless. This isn't just about losing the house. All ties have been lost. The shock is far too big to heal. With this state of mind, work is impossible. So I keep telling my son, I tell him that the type of society you build is what is most important. Getting along with young people is very important indeed, but more importantly, the person who is able to take good care, husband and wife ties and of parent and child ties, will be most successful no matter what kind of a world this is. This is what I tell him. I tell him that it's most important. My son has heard me speak like this for most of his life. He has lived with me as father and son, his mother and son, and seen us as husband and wife. I often hear that people don't have much of an opportunity to talk like this among their family. Because I think this relationship is most important, yes, I think it's important. The husband and wife is most important. Then parent and child. Parent and child is second most important. The thing is, men are extremely behind when it comes to awareness. Women are much more aware of family ties than men are. Men, as usual, put work first. It's the priority of the day. This will not help anyone to overcome hard times. Therefore, we need to alter values. The world is facing an age where values need to be changed. Otherwise, when men lose their jobs, nothing will remain. Nothing at all. There's nothing left for him. Because up until now, his job was everything. The moment he has lost everything, he must ask, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to live? People who live their lives right to begin with would not have a problem with this. They just keep doing whatever it is they need to do. This is why order of priority is important. I would like to talk about all of these things in 1-hour segments. Let me first begin with parent and child relationships, starting with child rearing. In reality, the husband and wife relationship is secure and mutual love is established. After that, they start to rear children, or so it should go. But when we talk about it, it is much easier to start with parent-child relationships, with child rearing. The reason for this is that women agree to have a family because it's the right atmosphere for raising children. This is another reason women are waiting until later in life to get married. Why don't they get married? They're judging the man. How much does he make? Will he care for the family? Will he participate in child rearing? Will he help with the dishes? All of these things come into factor, and the marriage gets later and later and later because that man is just not around. Of course not. Women are strong enough to make their own living. It's too much of a risk to give that all up and start having children now. They have to think, will we be able to live on his income? Imagine leaving a career thinking, can this man support me? In this unstable society, that's too much to ask for. What women want from men is for the man to make a nest. It all comes down to how much the man will help with raising children and how much the family means to him. That's how men are judged. When men look at women, they are satisfied if the protruding parts stick out and the curves are right. That's all they're interested in. Simply speaking, he's attracted to her face. The more sophisticated one will look at her figure. Look at those buttocks. And that's it. They don't care about personality. You know, as long as she's pretty. I'll change her personality. You won't believe the number of idiots who truly think that. Their homes are doomed. Women look for character first. Is he kind? Will he help with child rearing? That's what they look for when choosing a man. But men are stupid, so they figure all they need to do is work. They judge themselves by how much they can work, removing themselves from the women's requirement list. For women, there's no one left to marry. Men who admire are already attached. When they finally see a man who looks trustworthy, the man is already with someone. So because men are behind when it comes to awareness, I mean, if you ask me, most men are still in the Stone Ages. It's like, get your club and chase after your game level we're talking about here. These men are not going to get very far in this day and age. That's why they're going to have to change their views of the world to meet the new age. From now on, the type of men women marry will also lead to surviving the issues at hand. Both men and women take very good care of children. If a man is happy, he will want his children leading the same kind of life. But if a man is unhappy, he will not want his children leading the same kind of life, and he will get the best education for them and invest lots of money. Isn't that right? Celebrities and doctors. Well, it's not easy being a doctor anymore. But take politicians. These people live the easy life and make tens of times the salary of others. These people try to get their children into the same profession. It's the easy life. This is why society is like, isn't it? Parents don't want their children to have to work too hard, but politicians and celebrities are not happy if they're not happy. Perhaps they don't even know what happiness is. So the basic style of education is all wrong. You can get all the schooling in the world, but that won't necessarily make you happy. Bureaucrats spend their entire schooling from grade 1 to university graduation at the top of the class before thrown into bureaucracy. That's not happiness. Their homes have likely fallen apart. Schooling is not the most important thing in life, you know. So What I'm always saying to my son is, it's not about where you go to school. Your happiness will depend on who you marry. The type of woman you marry will determine your happiness. So what you need is the capacity to, when you find that girl, grab her. I don't say anything about his studies. My values are probably very different from yours. Quite likely. What supports my values is to be able to lead a happy life, to become happier than anyone else. It's the same for everyone. But you all seem to be misunderstanding that lots of schooling will make you happy, or that marrying a beautiful woman will make you happy. It won't happen. I see lots of people. I see many nice couples too. All of them. I only see 5 or 6 couples who I think, oh, what a nice couple. They get along so well. Really, there aren't that many. And these people aren't necessarily handsome or beautiful, but these are the people that are happy. Then I see couples where both the man and the woman are very good looking. Not a chance. They look like the ideal couple, but I know what's on inside. So I think, you've fallen apart. There's no such thing as a handsome couple, not like you see in the TV dramas. If you look inside, you can see that their family has fallen apart. They just look perfect on the surface. You have to be able to see what's really important. Which brings me to today's lecture. There's a book. It's actually a bestseller, and it's called Why Men Won't Listen and Women Can't Read Maps. And it's written by Alan Pease and Barbara Pease. Alan and Barbara are married. It's a really funny book. It's so funny that once you start reading, it's difficult to stop laughing. But there are very few people who read this and actually put it to use in their daily lives. Today, I'm hoping that after you listen to me talk for 1 or 2 hours, you'll take what I said, go home, and put it into action immediately. And people need the ability to read between the lines. Or like I often tell my son, you need to be able to see outside the TV screen. Don't just look at the picture, you have to be able to look outside of it to really see what's going on. People who are able to do that can grasp the point and immediately make good use of it. And that's what's important. So, today, I want to talk about how that's related to raising children. Raising children is very difficult. The basics are very easy, of course, but it's when you actually start doing it that it becomes difficult. You have, first of all, let me see, you have a husband and wife relationship. And then you have the parent and child, because the parents have the children. And when their children are born, the parents raise them. Children grow up on the love their parents give them and become husband and wife. And then they have children of their own. It begins with how the husband and wife raise the child. The basic elements are extremely easy. The first half of life, until adolescence, the child is raised on motherly love. The second half, up until marriage, that is, the child needs their fatherly love. And these are the basics. Let me elaborate. Motherly love is the love a mother gives. It's unconditional love. The kind of love that tells you to be able to do that, or to be good at this or that or the other. And that's like raising a seeing-eye dog or a German shepherd to become a police dog. It's not motherly love. That's more of a fatherly love. Oh, wow, very good, good job. Praising, training to be able to do something, like training a dog. This is fatherly love. Motherly love is different. It's not about being able or not being able to do something. People who have hamsters for pets think their pets are oh so cute. But do you hear them talk about how their pet still can't do certain tricks? Neither do I. They're just cute. People who have hamsters for pets care for them because they are cute. So cute and cuddly. That's all. They don't have to do anything. Just be there. That's all. It's unconditional. And motherly love is unconditional love with no expectations at all. The child is adorable. She hugs him unconditionally. No expectations. Father's love is often thought of as raising the child to stand on his own, but basically it's about discussing experiences, giving wisdom. To put differently, this is preparing the child for monarchy. A child needs intensive motherly love for the first half of a life until around adolescence. Perhaps that's 10 or 11 years. The child cannot get enough of it. It's actually very simple. Here's how it's explained in this book. Anthropologist James Preston discovered that a society with less loving contact between parents and children have a higher rate of violence among adults. He found that children who were loved by their parents are more likely to grow up healthy and happy. Adults who commit sex crimes or harass children sexually were likely to have been shunned, victims of violence as children with very little experience of being hugged. And then later it says, if you want your child to have a healthy spirit, hug her often. That's all. The entire point, that's the entire point. Hug him often. My wife and I raised our child together. With my job, it's not like I had to go out to the office, so it was possible for the two of us to participate in child rearing together. Until he was 18 months old or so. One of us was hugging him. When he felt like playing, we would let him play. But when he looked like he needed a hug, one of us would always hug him. That's how we raised him. That's what happened. But then what happened was he didn't go through a rebellious stage. First, between the ages of 3 and 5, there was no rebellion. As I always tell people during my lectures, our son did not cry. He cried until he was about 3 months old. Up until 3 months, he probably cried once a day. After that, though, he didn't cry at all. Not once throughout the entire day. Normally, if a child doesn't cry, he's either autistic or ill or raised ideally. These extremes look very similar, but there's a great difference between children who are raised well and autism. Autistic babies do not smile. Their son was always smiling. Our son was. And he was very happy baby and he did not cry. The reason for this is very simple. We both knew that babies understand everything. For that reason, we explained everything and talked to him from the very beginning. When the baby cries, we say, "Oh, why are you crying? Did you pee or poo?" It's one of 3 things. The baby pees or wants milk or needs to be hugged. That's all they're looking for. Either that or he's tired and wants to be cuddled until he falls asleep. He's sleepy, but he doesn't want to fall asleep on his own today. He needs someone to hold him until he falls asleep. It's really quite simple. And once you satisfy his 5 or 6 demands, he won't cry anymore. Then it becomes very easy to decipher what he wants. Of course, at the beginning, we don't know exactly what it is he wanted, so we kept asking, "Why are you crying? Did you pee? Did you poo?" Then we'd take his diaper off and find that he had pooed or peed, and we'd say, "Oh, you peed, let's change your diaper." and then we'd change it. If we said, "Do you want some milk?" like this, and he started drinking, we knew that it was milk he wanted. So then we'd say, "Shall we have some milk then?" and offer it to him. And so it goes. It's a matter of continuing to speak to him. "So it's milk you want? Oh, you peed. Oh, good for you. Now let's change your diaper." Then by repeating these words, your baby starts to understand. You say, "Let me give you a hug," before giving a hug. Within a month, you'll know. If he needs a hug, then when you say, "Would you like a hug?" he'll respond. This is really very easy. He'll stop crying altogether. On the other hand, if the parent is too busy with housework and whatnot, these desires will go unnoticed. The child, needing to relay them, will start pitter-pattering his feet. Then he has the desire, so he needs for it to be known. He won't cry, he just needs his father or mother to notice. Then when he doesn't get the attention he needs, he'll start waving his arms. How long will it take him to cry? I actually watched my baby do this from a bit of a distance. After waving his arms and legs for a while, he starts making sounds, ooh and ah, like that, as if to say, "Hey man, when are you going to notice?" Ooh, ah, it starts to get louder. Then after a few minutes, the pretend cry begins. He's not crying, but he's pretending. When I thought that he might actually start to cry, I went to him and asked, "Did you pee? Did you poo?" And then take care of it. I wasn't about to really let him cry. I must have watched him for more than 5 minutes. Babies generally don't cry. It's because they are left alone for long periods of time that they have to say, "Mommy, come here, I need a hug," as they bat their feet and start making noises. Then if Mommy still doesn't come, they start to cry very loudly because they're angry. They're saying, "Why won't you understand me? Why are you leaving me alone?" You could ask, "Do you need a hug?" But it won't make a difference because by then it's too late. Baby is mad. You might get confused, but it's only because you weren't sensitive enough in the first place. If parents would only pay more attention to the baby's desires, that's how I feel, they won't cry. After 3 months, babies don't cry. They spend the entire day smiling away, having the time of their lives. When I tell my friends that babies don't cry all day long, they say they don't believe me. Then, when they visit us, they say, "Wow, it's true. Your baby doesn't cry. He's such a happy baby." Then when my friends came over, all my baby did was smile. He didn't cry at all. When he was about 18 months old, we took him on a tour of Kyushu by car. We were in the car for 6 hours at a time. I held my son and he didn't cry. He just didn't. Babies don't. If they do, it's because his desires and demands are all totally ignored. It's because nobody is paying any attention to his hunger or wish to be held and hugged. Because nobody understands. Housework has taken priority. Well, you would cry too. We insisted on holding our son, always. That's why he didn't cry. We held him as much as we could until he was 18 months old. Hug, 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 hug. And did he grow up depending on that? Once he started walking at 18 months, he didn't come asking to be held. He started playing. That's all. I see kids who are 5 years old tugging at their mother's skirts. These children didn't get enough hugging. And hold him and hug him as much as you can, and you won't notice a rebellious stage. I kept telling my wife that. See, how much you invest at the beginning makes all the difference. If you simply clear that, the rest is easy. I kept telling her that, and that's exactly how it turned out. To tell you the truth, I have never told him that he needs to study. In fact, he spends too much time studying, so I tell him not to. I tell him to stop it. But he doesn't need to. He only watched NHK specials and shows like that. He doesn't watch the TV dramas. He doesn't watch movies. Nothing with any violence in it. He only watches shows that cover social awareness and the news. And he knows a lot. He knows everything. Do you know who the president of Venezuela is? Do you know about President Chavez's socialist reform? My son knows all of that because he watches TV. What is a university education worth? Essays? I used to be a math teacher, but I've corrected essays. While teaching math, a Japanese teacher asked me to mark essays for him. I said, "Me?" He said, "Yes, will you?" So I helped him. One thing I learned from marking these essays was how much the students were actually capable of. A person's character is reflected in his writing, you see. Students who spend most of their days not thinking about anything cannot write anything. But those who have the ability to see and have spent their lives thinking for themselves can write. Company management want to hire these people. They want people with content. That's what I tell my son. There's no sense in studying too much. It's content that matters. Even if I tell him not to study, he does. He keeps studying all the time. Why? Because he is raised in a loving home that was filled with harmony. Our son is comfortable in his settings, very stable. When he started grade 1, the other kids called him Grandpa Takeshita. Our son, 7 years old, and the kids were calling him Grandpa because he was that stable. In fact, children who are so different from the others often get ignored or bullied. But this wasn't the case. Quite the opposite, actually. The teachers even respected him. He still goes back to his elementary school to teach paper plane making or something. The school asks him to come. He's the one-day paper plane teacher. He has a very good rapport with the school teachers. I had one of his teachers say to me that he was glad to have my son as a student, that it changed his outlook on life. One child can change a teacher. The child has that much influence. This is why child rearing is so important. So my son moved on to junior high school. There was no stage of rebellion here either. He's 16 years old now, and I still haven't seen any rebellious behavior from him. He's really, really good kid. He studies with the NHK Academy of Distance Learning, as correspondence courses seem to work better for him. And then he gets along famously with his school teachers. They all talk about what a good kid he is. Rumors spread, and even the teachers in Tokyo talk about the interesting kid in Hiroshima. They are fellow students, too, and many of them work. The NHK Academy has students who are well along in their lives. Sometimes I say, "Hey, Tomo, you're early today." Then he says, "I got a ride to the station." "Who gave you a ride?" "A guy around 20 who has a car." "Why?" "He said he'd give me a ride because I'm a good kid." Can you believe that? A completely different child is raised. I truly believe that our son is one of the most wonderful children there could be. The reason I'm saying this is because when I was his age, I wasn't like that at all. I don't think I was very much worth anything at all. And as a man, I wasn't worth anything, really. A lot left to be desired. Very average, I suppose. Nothing like the way my son has turned out to be. All we did was raise him very, very carefully with lots of love. We held him all along. We have never told our son that he needs to study. In fact, we told him not to study, at least not to study too much, because that will make you a fool. Even now we tell him not to push himself so hard because there's not much sense in studying too hard. We still tell him that. But still he studies as hard as he can, so we don't chastise him for that. This is how we are raising him. Can you understand? We raise him very carefully. We spend at least 2-3 hours with our son each day. We talk quite a lot. I'm generally at home most of the day, so I'm sure you can understand. Until he was 12 years old or so, we loved him unconditionally. We did not criticize him at all. I have never criticized him, not once. I've never said, "This is the way you're behaving about that, so you should be more such and such a way." I've never done that. I don't have to, because he knows, he understands that he shouldn't be doing certain things. There should be no need as long as he watches the parents. This is how love becomes deeper and deeper, loving unconditionally, like loving a hamster, like loving a cat. People who like cats love them unconditionally. They don't say to the cat, "Hey, haven't you learned to do this trick yet?" They just say, "Oh, you're so adorable, such a cutie." That's all they expect from the cat, and that's all they need. Right? This is how to love your child unconditionally. That's the point I'm getting at. That is motherly love. And if you don't think that's possible, just imagine this. Imagine if your son or daughter didn't come home today when they were supposed to. Maybe they've been kidnapped. How would you feel? It's very simple. You will likely wish for him to come home alive, as long as he's alive. You won't want anything else, but just for him or her to be alive. Am I wrong? That's all, isn't it? You're not asking for anything else, are you? That's how I always deal with my son. I don't say anything about the future or what university he should go to. I don't say a word about studying for that right now. I tell him that all I want is for him to be with me. Because I love you, because I want to be with you, because I want to live with you. That's why I want you to be with me, that's all. And we have been getting along very well. That is unconditional love, motherly love. And that is why men need to brush up their motherly love. Women need to do so even more, you understand? It's most important to raise your children this way. Then when the child reaches about 12, they enter adolescence, and now the child needs to study the basics of adulthood to prepare for society. He needs to find his talents, what his direction will be when settling in an occupation in the future. Yes, the child realizes at this time that society is not an easy place to be unless you have a talent. The child will see that there must be a way to make an income, to build a house. He will see reality. You see, he starts to worry, and what parents need to do here is not to add to his worries, but to cheer him on. Don't worry, you can do it. I know you can. Tell him that. Don't add to his worries by saying things like, "At this rate, you'll never make it into university," or "Look at so-and-so next door. If you sleep too much, you'll fail." And all this will do is add anxieties. And that won't get him anywhere, even if he does get into university. It won't make him happy. That's not what it's all about at all. And this is where the father's role comes into play. Are you ready? Fathers go out into society and get a lot of know-how from all kinds of experiences. It's the father's responsibility to teach the children about this. So what's important is this. We often hear that children grow up watching their parents' back, or so it's said, like watching their parents work. But that is after they enter into adolescence. When the child needs his mother the most, that's until he's 3 years old. Often what happens is his mother throws him into a nursery and goes off to work.